Thanks for joining us for another edition of The Small Business Show with Shyann Malone, exclusively on ASBN.com.
Hi everyone, I'm Shyann Malone. You're watching another edition of The Small Business Show. Improv comedy is going beyond the stage, right? It's transforming the way professionals connect and communicate. On today's show, we're learning how to communicate powerfully with a few tips from behind the art, and we have just the person to do this for us. Joining us now is improv comedian, the founder of Keeping It Human, author, and keynote speaker, Klotz-Guest. Kathy, welcome to the show.
Hey, Shyann, great to be here.
So it's funny, we were prepping for this segment and I'm thinking, well, it's improv, so we'll just go with it, right?
Whatever happens is right.
Yes, I love it, I love it. So talk to us about that, right? It's real life stuff. It's not just for actors and comedians. You can use it in the workplace.
100%. I think one of the misconceptions about improv comedy is, it's about being funnier. And the answer is yes, and it will make you funnier because it makes you more present in the moment, more adaptable, more empathetic, more focused on your audience. And all those things make you more confident, which is really important because communication is all about connecting.
Yes. I think you hit that nail with a hammer there, because often everyone, we're serious about our careers, we're serious about the workplace and our jobs, but when you can lighten a situation when it's called for, right, it often helps people connect on a personal level for sure. Explain the concept of yes and improv.
Yeah, it's sort of the founding principle. There's a lot of principles in improv. And sort of the heart and soul of improv is yes and. And yes and means I hear you and I'm going to add on to your ideas so we can move forward together. And it's sort of in counterposition to what a lot of us do unconsciously when people are talking. When it's our turn, we're like, yes, but I have something to say. Yes, but. And it happens at such, I think, an unconscious level for a lot of us. Mm-hmm. And what we don't understand is that when we say yes, but to people, we shut them down. They're not going to tell us. We shut them down. And when we've been yes, butted, we're like, I am checking out. I am not going to work this hard. And yes, and opens people up and says, I hear you. And even if we don't agree, Shyann, with somebody's idea, yes, and says, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. And I also think this way. So we don't have to agree. We don't have to do the idea. We don't have to sell our integrity. We're just saying to the person, hey, I hear you. And, maybe we don't call that idea in the morning, but we show it some respect and we take it out for a few drinks.
Interesting, because sometimes I feel like when you do use that but word, right, it creates it's an automatic defense mechanism. And like you said, the next sentence isn't even heard.
Not at all. You shut down. I mean, we've all had it done to us. We've probably all done it unconsciously. And what it says to the person is, yeah, whatever. It's my idea that matters. And whether we intend it or not, and a lot of times it happens really at that unconscious level, that person isn't going to work that hard to be heard. And what makes persuasive, influential communication is really focusing on your audience. And you want that person to be an ally. You want that person, even if you don't agree with them, you want them to feel heard so that the next time they come to you with an idea, there's trust. So yes, and that little shift from yes, but to consciously choosing yes, and makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of, when someone says, I don't mean to be rude, but, and then they're about to be rude.
Exactly.
Ring the alarm.
Well, then don't say that.
Exactly. Oh, goodness. So improv, obviously, it's rolling with the punches, right? It's unscripted. Talk to us about the ability to adapt to that.
Sure. When we're talking about high stakes communication and even interpersonal communication, we want to be heard. We want to listen. We want influence. And we might have a plan, especially if it's a high stakes presentation or something like that. We actually prepare. It's important to prepare. But sometimes best laid plans get thrown out and we have to feel our way through the moment. Maybe something's changed. Maybe something happens in the moment. The unexpected happens. And we have to be able in any moment to let go of the plan so we can really be present in the moment. That's adaptability. And great communicators adapt with surprises that happen in the moment. So it's okay to prepare and then say, hey, you know what? The moment changed. I have to let go. And that's great. That's improv.
Mm-hmm. Can you give us any examples or think of any examples of how this plays out in real world scenarios, let's say?
I think it plays out all the time. Imagine a high stakes presentation. Something happens. Maybe somebody asks a question you didn't anticipate and you don't know the answer. Or maybe they want to go through all your slides. They don't want to wait for you to go, no, 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 I prepared. I need to force feed you these slides. And we have to be able to say, okay, I hear your concern is X. So let's talk about that. Let's ditch this and go to here. Or maybe something happens in a meeting, or maybe you prepared something and you just found out that the company laid people off. So you have to be able to pivot in every moment and ask, does what I prepared meet the needs of the moment? And it's going to happen every day, every day. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, if I crowbar my plan, how is this going to land? Or is it better to just say, all right, here's what I prepared, but the unexpected happened. And isn't it better to just lean into that, into the moment?
So Kathy, when you talk about relatability, do you think it's just as important as credibility, or do they kind of go hand in hand?
They really go hand in hand. I think the biggest mistake that people make is when you don't know people or you're still trying to build a relationship with people, we try so hard to establish credibility because we've been taught to. We've been taught in all our presentation classes or in interpersonal, speaking, we've been taught that credibility is important. The problem is we do an end run around relatability. And if I can't relate to you, Cheyenne, I really don't care what you have to say. But I relate to you and I care what you have to say. So that's the beauty of establishing relatability, is when we show that we're imperfect, we're human, we care, then people are ready to listen. So the biggest thing here is that they're both important, but we cannot get to credibility without relatability first.
When you talk about relatability, I think oftentimes people try to share stories that are similar to try to connect. But sometimes that doesn't go off so well, right? Sometimes it comes off of, well, I shared with you and now you're going to one-up me, right? Or, how do you find, the balance where you are trying to connect and not, upstage the other?
Yeah, it happens. And it happens, I think sometimes we don't realize, and we're in it before we realize it. The thing we have to remember is in that moment, what is it that we can say that can connect? And it's not about one-upping. We don't even have to have a similar story. Sometimes all we have to do in that moment is say, I see you. I hear that. I hear that. That must have been hard for you. Or, oh my gosh, I can totally understand that. And we don't have to reciprocate with a story. A yes and can be subtle. It can be like, I hear you, man, that sucked. Or I hear you. And just even that is such a deep act of empathy. It says that we're listening. So we may not have to reciprocate with a story. We can just, hey, I got you. I got you.
If you consider yourself not so good at improv, especially in the workplace, are there things that you can do to work on that?
Absolutely. You don't have to, I'd say go take an improv class, but you don't have to be an improviser to use improv in the workplace. Really focus and challenge yourself to make little shifts. Little things. For example, next time you are tempted to say yes, but try a yes and. Put a little rubber band on your wrist, and every time you're about to say yes, but just snap that. That will condition you to say yes and. The next time you feel like you've prepared, but the moment has changed, it's okay to lean into it and say, I want to try something different. I did prepare this, but I feel like your questions have changed. The room has changed. We're at a different place. So I'm going to try this. Just little subtle things. And if you can just be adaptable in that moment and be willing to let go of whatever you planned, as the moment changes, you will find that over time you are building a very important muscle.
Curious, as a comedian, has that ever happened to you? You're, in the zone on stage, you got your act all lined up in your head, and then, a heckler, or maybe not, just an audience member with a good reaction, and you want to play off of it. Does that happen often?
It happens so often. It happens where somebody is on their phone really loud. They don't realize they're having a conversation for the whole room, or somebody has, said hallelujah or something, or anything. Or, once we did have a few partiers from a bridesmaid party, and they had a little too much to drink. So you learn to steer into it and just yes and whatever comes your way.
All right. I think that makes the best of all of us, not only comedians as well. Kathy Klotz-Guest, thanks so much for your time today. Founder of Keeping It Human, author, improv comedian, and keynote speaker. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Shyann. I love being here.
Yes, and thanks to all of you for watching the Small Business Show exclusively right here on ASBN.com and now streaming on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of The Small Business Show with Shyann Malone, exclusively on ASBN.com.